When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ludlow, and enjoy today's episode. Good afternoon. This is Mark Ludlow. You're on the Fearless Mindset Podcast, and we have your friend Thomas here, who is a good friend of yours, and he brought you guys in, and you know our backgrounds, and I just so you know, to create a storyline, I just had Chris Harris on. He spent 25 years on the border, and we're talking about the cartel and stuff. And Thomas said, "Hey, let's bring in my buddies that were in the cartel, and we just want to hear your kind of a story background on what you guys did, and what do you think the U.S. can expect with the open border coming? What's your expectations for the audience? Now we have an open border, we have a crisis down there. What do you guys see happening on the streets of America in the next, let's say, 6 months to a year? What do you think is going to happen?"
More drugs. Definitely more drugs. More crime.
And there's going to be a lot more homicides because there's going to be turf wars.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, there would definitely be turf wars. You know, bringing drugs into the streets of Los Angeles or any other streets is going to cause a lot of crime, and with that is going to come murders, extortions. You're going to have more prostitution. So it's not good at all.
Now you say prostitution. Are we going to see more child sex trafficking coming in because of the prostitution? That's big money. I hear you probably know more about that.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't. As far as that, I've never got into that, so I can't speak on that. You know, but you know, just the prostitution itself. You know, with the cartels and the street gangs, it's just not all about the cartels, but the street gangs get involved because now they're making money, and they're hiring these street gangs to do hits.
Wow. Now, what was your role when you were in the gangs? What was your roles in there, and what did that look like? I mean, were you in fear for your life daily, or what did that look like?
Oh yeah, well, so you get desensitized to fear. You know, I was involved with the Mexican Mafia, and I was a shot caller. So I was a shot caller in prisons, and I was a shot caller on the streets. And every day you never knew if you were going to come home. But living in fear, you couldn't do that. You know, you get desensitized to everything that goes on around you, because there's times where you might have to kill your best friend. You know, and you can't have no mercy.
So either you're going to live or someone else is going to die. One of the two.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's either going to be me or him. And just like the cartel, it's no different, except the cartel is more like a big business internationally.
It is.
Absolutely. As to Mexican Mafia, it's more localized, but up and down throughout California and also through other states. You got the state and federal prisons. So it's starting to expand, but not on that level. Mexican Mafia and the cartels sometimes go hand in hand. You know, when it comes down to business or when it comes down to assassination hits.
Wow. And those assassination attempts are typically given a green lit on different people that are refusing to pay extortion money or rent or whatever, those business exchanges.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they get green lit or green lighted, you know, because they fail to pay. They don't want to, or they get caught with the drugs. They're telling. Let me see. There's just many. There's a variety of different reasons.
Sure. A
lot of reasons. And it doesn't take much. You just might have an up and coming who just doesn't like you from a previous argument that you had, and now he's in that power. He finds a way to get you hit, and it's done. No questions asked. So it's just a matter of point of a finger, look, and it's done.
Yeah, that's pretty insane. Just pointing the finger, be like, yeah, he's out. I'm wondering, what was it? Because we know that you're. I'll let you introduce yourself first, and
okay.
So go ahead and just if you can tell us a little bit about your background and why you got into this and why you got out.
Okay, so I grew up in a good family. You know, I got I got family on both sides of the law, on the good side and the bad side. Those who work for law enforcement, those who work for the Correctional Department of Corrections, and those who just reside in Department of Corrections. You know, it was the choices that I made. I started off when I was probably about 10 years old, hanging around with just kids, you know, throwing rocks at cars. Things escalated. I had friends who were in gangs. I got involved with the gangs because of my friend. You know, I used to kick back with him a lot. He was a couple of years older. I was easily influenced. I had a lack of education. And these were the decisions that I made. Also had, you know, I had family that would tell me, hey, don't do that, but I didn't listen. You know, I was involved in a lot of shootings. Back then it was drive-bys, a lot of beatings of other gang members. I ended up in prison, and then in prison, that's when I got introduced to the prison gang, which was Mexican Mafia. And it all started with, you know, you had to earn their trust. They need to know who you are. You know, I was only 17 years old in prison. You know, so I was in a man's world, literally, knew nothing about, and I'm gonna be honest, I was scared. At that time, there was fear. You know, until, you know, they started taking me under their wing and, you know, taught me all the ways, how to talk, how to live in prison. Things you do, things you don't do. And I started off with, you know, here's a knife, here's drugs, transport it, carry it, take it. You know, little things like that escalated because they want to see if they can trust you. You know, some of my lessons in prisons were I was taking a knife fights. I seen these two guys, they had knives strapped to their hand, literally strapped. They were tied up so that the knives didn't come off, and they attacked each other. At the end of all that took place, I asked, what was that for? That's how you handle personal disrespect. You know, anytime there was disrespect like that, it was dealt with knives. You know, you were going to try to take the other person out, or he was going to try to take you out if nothing was talked down through the higher-ups. Another lesson was I was told to look in a certain direction. This guy's working out. The guy casually walks by, drops weight on the head. The guy lives. The reason for that lesson was always keep your word. So those two lessons there, I made sure that I didn't mess those up. You know, I learned very quickly in prison on how to live, and little by little I just got more involved because now I wanted to be like them. I looked up to them. You know, I was young. I soaked everything up, and they used that to their advantage too. So I went through the prison system, went through the security housing unit, which was a SHU. I was back there in Corcoran SHU for years. Did a lot of administrative segregation, which is called that seg, also known as the hole. You know, been back there for. I've been back there for being under investigated for making knives. Those are all the things that they teach you how to do. You know, you learn to make knives, where to hide them, how to use them, what certain points on the body are good kill shots. You know.
Definitely, it's a. They just talk about crime. You go in with an associate's degree in crime, and you graduate, you know, from prison with a PhD in crime, right?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. So, you know, then when I got out of prison, it just, you know, it's like you said, I graduated. Now I'm on the streets. So now I have all this knowledge that I had in prison just directed toward the streets now. So now I know how to, in the criminal world, there's different ways we talk to people, right? So in prison, they get you ready for this. And there's certain books that they want you to read that they use, you know, they're influential books, you know, like The Prince, Machiavelli, or Miyamoto Musashi, The Book of Five Rings. You know, all these, those are just two of the few that I can mention that we use for like indoctrination phases, you know. And we study these books. We study books on psychology, business, and we carry it on to the streets. In the streets, then you start organizing people. And drug trade deals, working with other gangs, and everything is done through. Um, you got to when dealing with other people, when dealing with other gangs, we always had to be forceful but respectful because they had to know that if they don't do the things that require of them, they will be killed. And there's always examples that are being made all the time. And there's a history of it. I just didn't come into this doing this. This was already being done, so they're aware of it. I'm just someone who comes to enforce it.
Wow. That's a good movie right there. Life story.
Yeah, there's definitely
Yes.
a lot. There's definitely a lot. There's something you brought up earlier about, you were afraid when you were entering, which I think any 17-year-old, even adult male, like going into a prison for the first time would be afraid. But you said you
Yeah.
learned how not to be afraid. And that I'm assuming was in prison. So how did that happen?
Yeah. Well, the way that was taught, I mean, it's just shown. It's something that you have to develop because, I mean, not everybody can make it. They might just hit the yard and try to make a quick U-turn and be in fear for their life. Now, I'm sure everybody has those feelings, but it's something that's developed inside you where you just don't care. You know, um, to commit crimes to begin with, obviously you don't care about yourself or those that you victimize, right? So it's already there. But going into a prison, now you're just like trapped within these walls where there's so much that goes on and you can get killed for so little reason. And it's just not by your race, it's by other races. There's certain spots that you can walk in that are considered blind spots that you don't want to get caught by yourself. And there's times where you do have to be alone if you got a pass to go on a visitation or, you're going to work at a certain time. You just have to walk like, if it happens, it happens. If I die, I die. It's meant to be. It's a messed up mindset to have to live like that, knowing that you feel the intensity every single day. Walking out your door, you had to be aware of your surroundings, keeping your head on the swivel at all times because you never know when it's your time, whether it's going to be a riot. You know what you do. So if you know you made the mistake in something that you shouldn't have done by skimming off some money, just anything, you disrespected someone, you got something like that coming. So yeah, it's something that's just developed. It's kind of like law enforcement, right? Of course, you can't live in fear every single day, but you're aware of it. These things can happen. Or those who serve our country, you still going out there with that courage and with the mindset, I'm here to protect my country. I'm here to protect and serve the people around you. And you develop these types of things, and you just put it to the forefront of your mind that this is just how it has to be.
Great. Yeah. Great examples there. And from being that I had Chris Harris on not too long ago, I'm curious, what are your thoughts? What are the weakest points in the U.S. border has in the drug distribution channels and being attacked? I hear people wondering, well, the cartel is going to attack U.S. soil, but I think from what I'm hearing is the cartel is more concerned about making their money off their drugs than in doing a full blown invasion of the U.S. soil. I don't think that's not going to happen. I think there's a lot of conspiracy theorists about that. What are your thoughts?
I don't think it would ever be a full blown. I mean, the border crossings has been going on since ages.
Right.
And it's always been about drugs. It's always been about drugs. This is where they make all their money.
Right.
The drugs just been coming in through the borders, through our oceans, through just the California borders. No one ever mentions Canada too. So there's different routes, and it's all done through the. I'm not saying it's Canadians. I'm just saying cartels use all these different routes, and it's to get drugs here. That's how they make their money. I mean, if you just follow some of the case with Chapo, all that will tell you right there.
Yep.
It's all about making money, but it's still street terrorism. Yeah, right.
Good point.
So you know, it's bringing drugs to our land that is messing up our families, people we know, whether it's indirectly or directly. You know, it's victimizing us.
And I
And
also heard that Hezbollah and Hamas had training camps over in Mexico that working with the cartel and doing tactical stuff. Is that more for training the cartel to be more effective combatives with other cartels for power control or distribution
well,
than anything else? Or what do you think on that?
I don't know too much about that, but I mean,
Sure.
you know, just a lot of the cartels. I mean, yeah, they're definitely going to be trained because a lot of them are police officers, a lot of them are retired military officers. So
Right.
yeah, you know, if they're building this organization, the killings and the shootouts that they have, I mean, they're going to have those that are around them to protect them, their territories, to be well trained in these tactics.
Makes sense. I heard the Zetas are used to be former special forces for Mexico. They went over to the cartel side to make more money, which makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And the Mexican government is so corrupt, America really thinks by arresting El Chapo and putting him in prison is going to stop everything. No, they're well organized.
No, it's well organized, and this has been going on since the beginning of time.
True.
You know, so you take one down, you know, another one comes up, take him down, another one's going to come up. They're always giving each other up. You know, that's clear.
Yeah.
You know, that's the only time when it seems like it's okay to tell on someone, well, let me go get rid of my competition so he can get away so he can take the territory. You know, so some things are just, you know what? Some things are not going to change. They're always going to be the same. People are still going to talk on the phones knowing that there's wiretaps. They're just going to find different types of communication, whether it's through satellite, whether it's through just verbal messages, handwritten messages, whatever it takes to get the job done, they're going to think of those ways to do it. And money, unfortunately, as we all know, as the Bible said, money is the root of all evil. You know, money can corrupt somebody because it's the temptation. And they got so much money, it's easy for them just to go ahead and drop $1 million on someone's lap and say, hey, you're a law-abiding citizen. We need you. What do you think that person might do? I mean,
there you go.
I mean,
I'll take that because they got integrity, you know, but it makes it really messes someone up. If they're down in the dumps, they might be doing their research.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not dumb. These organizations are not dumb. These street gangs are not dumb. These prison gangs they're not, I mean, they're dumb. I mean, they're dumb in a sense as far as like they continue to do the same thing. They'll talk on the phones. They'll do all these things and not care. But when it comes to knowing how to attack a person in a sense of he's down in the dumps or she's down in the dumps, this is how we can utilize this. You know, so they prey on the weakness. As far as closing a border, I mean, that's something that's going to be hard because they're not only going over the border, they're not going through the border, but they also go under the border.
Right.
You know, so, you know, to maintain all that, I mean, eventually everything gets caught, but how much do you think has been going through? How much drugs do you think has been going through? Or how many times you think a person who is a terrorist that have came through the border, you know? So all these things are to be concerned about. Can they be prevented? I think the United States is doing everything that they possibly can to prevent it. You know, it's just that these criminals, these organizations are always going to find other ways of doing it.
On that
And
note,
especially if they're, go ahead.
I was going to say, on that note, you said, you know, how a lot of the governments are trying to really stop and curb drugs and putting up bigger fences, but there's always ways around it. If someone was, say, like you in your position, in your experience, and your firsthand knowledge, what would you do if you were in charge to go ahead and stop the flow? Like, what would you do if you had that power, that ability to do? What do you think would be a good option or viable option to go ahead and at least deter or slow it to a snail's pace of drug flow or trafficking or whatnot?
Well, it's definitely going to cost more money, you know, as far as for the government to shell out to put more focus on certain areas of the border because it's vast, you know. And these criminal organizations, they're thinking of everything. I think that you know, if they were to get more people involved with the Mexican side, which is going to be hard because you really don't know who to trust. You know, I mean, I'm sure there's people over there, but I don't think it's a lot of people that the United States has over there that they can trust. It's very few, you know, but they do need to work hand in hand, and they do, and they do. But at the same time, it's kind of like on the Mexican side, it might be more for show and tell rather than, you know, really mean what business of what they're doing.
Okay, well, let's take that a step further now and incorporate the cartels and the Mexican mafia in U.S. penitentiaries. No, I know back in
Yes,
the day they weren't. I think we call them the Border Brothers, if I'm not
yes,
mistaken. But
yes,
they weren't necessarily part of the same organization. There's business going on, but not full compliance. So when you have, say, a cartel member or hitman or whatever in a U.S. prison, how does that work with the Mexican mafia? How is there protection? Is there fees paid? Is there, you know, it's like, well, this guy's a rival cartel that's not doing business with our gang of the Mexican mafia, so we're going to go ahead and execute him, or how does that work?
well, uh, it all depends. It all depends. You know, I mean, if there's a cartel member there and I see him, I'm gonna want to know who he is. We're gonna talk. Let's work. Let's do business. You know, so it's not a matter of him coming saying, "Hey, I'm gonna pay you this much," unless he's real older. You know, yeah, he might say, "Hey, I need some of this to watch over me. I got these other people over here on this side that I don't necessarily get along with. If they have the chance, they'd probably take me out." So yeah, it wouldn't be so much of an extortion. It would be more of, let me help you, you help me. You know, let's help each other here. Scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. Next thing you know, he's giving you some contacts, and you're in.
Excellent. Does that also work for MA in Mexico, like south of the border? Does it work for Mexican mafia
Well,
members?
yeah, Mexican Mafia. You know, there's quite a few Mexican Mafia members and associates who do work for the cartel. You know, it's not that they are cartel. They're Mexican Mafia. They're Mexican Mafia associates. The cartel needs them because, you know, Mexican Mafia rules these sides of the streets, especially right there in San Diego. So who else are they going to need? They're going to need those who know the streets, and they call upon them. And sometimes, you know, you got Mexican Mafia associates who got to go across the border, you know, so they get in contact with the cartel members, and that's how that begins.
Well,
And for those who don't all have no criminal background, they're U.S. citizens. Well, they can go to and from.
right. Those are easy transporters for their business.
Yeah, exactly. They might not be having a car or truck full of dope, but they got some serious sensitive information that can come to this side. And to really stop that, I mean, you need someone on the inside to really know what's going on. And, you know, as we all know, things like that take time to develop.
They
But
do.
when they develop, you know, it's all worth it. Nothing happens overnight. We all know that. Nothing happens overnight. It may take a year or two just to get the big guy that everyone's always looking for, or just to somehow get involved in his business.
I think about when I had Chris Harris on, he told me that, you know, like China has a long game to destroy America. But after hearing you talk, I think the cartel plays a long game too. They just want consumers to buy their drugs to make their living. And they're not forcing anybody to buy the drugs. People just want the drugs. They want the Coke, and they want the whatever you guys are, or whatever they're selling to the end user, which is America. And America,
Right.
either they're not going to be a consumer of it, and it'll shut it down. But obviously, like you said, this has been going on for how many years now? And I remember the Bush
Exactly.
Reagan, he tried to shut it down, and it didn't work. And like Todd said, or not Todd, but Chris Harris said that, you know, China now using this more synthetic stuff they're shipping to the cartel, and the cartel shipping it
Oh,
up.
absolutely.
And so
Yeah. What?
we're
Yeah.
rewarding China still. We know they're doing this stuff, and yet we reward them, and they're trying to kill us
Yeah.
internally. And cartels, like, well, we'll be your distribution channel. You just pay us, and what do they care? You're. And then people don't realize when I was in the Marine Corps, I got exposure in Central South America, and knowing how
Yeah.
they live, and the cartels giving them paving the roads, setting up utility grids, and giving
Right.
them water. I'm like, of course you're going to support the cartel because they're like a charity organization helping you live a better life, and they offer you a couple $100 to go shoot somebody. You've never seen that kind of money before in your life. It's a matter of survival of the fittest, and Americans don't understand that concept because we live in a bubble. And if you're, a 12-year-old kid and a cartel member goes, "Hey, go shoot that guy. Here's $100," American dollars.
Yeah.
Of course, we're going to do it because that's survival. They don't know anything different. They've seen war and chaos. And so, in a psychological standpoint, yeah, Mexico is probably dangerous than Afghanistan and Iraq because that's just a way to survive. That's human instinct.
Right.
It doesn't mean they're immoral or anything. They're just trying to live day to day and eat something. It's just survival, the Maslow hierarchy of thinking, and that's psychology 101. And I know everybody beats up on, all these people coming up. Well, if I was from Nicaragua, Venezuela, and all that, I'd be coming up to the border too to hop that fence. I want freedom. I want that taste because my life right now sucks. I live in a war zone.
Yeah. I mean, and not everybody that comes across the border is criminals, right?
Right.
So I mean, that's not the fault of them. I mean, we got a better country. This is the land of the free. It's those other people who take advantage of that. And that's that criminals, organizations, and it's kind of hard to weed out.
It is.
That's the messed up thing. It's kind of hard to weed out.
Now, how long were you a shot caller for when you were in? How many years did that go for? I mean, was that?
That went for quite a few years. That definitely went for quite a few years, for about at least 15 years.
Here in Los Angeles?
About a good 15. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that one must have been living on the edge of your seat every day, when someone's watching you.
Oh yeah, no,
did
definitely.
You like a team of bodyguards protecting you because you were the shot caller?
Oh, you know what? In certain situations, yeah, you would, especially like county jails, right?
Okay.
In county jails, people know who the shot caller were, so obviously, you cut the head off the snake, right?
Yeah.
So why not go for the shot caller? So yeah, you would always have people around you, especially now with since they opened up the security housing units, you got Mexican Mafia on general population yards. So yeah, they have bodyguards. But even with bodyguards, they use tactics to get them away so they can get killed. And that's what happens. Yeah, especially, on the streets, it's much more wide open too. It can come from anywhere. And like I said, you can't live in fear. It was just, I've been called one time where they said, hey, keep in mind I have my own vehicle, I have my own house, and a Mexican Mafia member calls me and says, hey, I'm going to have, my soldiers come pick you up so you can take them to the spot. And I'm thinking, and myself, I got my car, I can take my own self to the spot. They can follow me, or I can give them directions, And, you cannot show no cowardice. That could be my last day, but I said, okay, that day I worried about, okay, if I'm going to get killed, I don't want to get killed in front of my house. So when my wife walks out, she's going to see me laying dead. So I walked down the block and also had a gun. I had a gun. So that moment was very heightened. It was, I felt it and I was ready for it. I walked into it knowing that it can possibly happen, but I'm not going to go down with the fight. I'm going to go down with the fight, And they picked me up. First thing, I get in the car, and part of the rules are if they got guns, they got to let you know. And that's the first thing they said. The Mexican Mafia member told me to let you know that we got guns in the car. If we get caught or pulled over, it's on us. I told them, thank you. Wow. Did I let them know I had a gun? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Right.
So, and we went to our destination. Everything was fine, but it's those things that you have in the back of your mind is just gonna be the day, and you're being called to that day. I've been in their shoes too, where I had to go pick people up, knock on the door, and say, "You got to come with us because this Mexican Mafia member wants to see you." And what does the guy do? He says, "Okay." He could have went to his room. He could have had a gun on him and just thought automatically that, "Oh, these guys are going to kill me," and he could have just killed us. But you feel that you're bulletproof. You don't care, and it shows like you're macho, and you got all this false sense of pride, and nothing's gonna happen to you, and you just got this mindset that it happens, it happens.
Definitely the fearless mindset. That's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Wow.
You definitely got to have a fearless mindset.
Yeah, that is insane.
From fearless and being Frank Mir, UFC two-time UFC world champion, to Tom Brady, to just to live day by day as a shot caller in the cartel Mexican Mafia. And how many kills do you have under your? I don't know if you want to go into that. We'll keep that off record.
Yeah,
that's what's known.
Yeah,
let's keep that off record.
Yeah,
we don't.
So it's a life. It's a messed up life to live, and But what I do want to say to all this is that
right.
I do feel sorry for all the things that I've done. Because I victimized a lot of people.
Wow.
And that's that affected me a lot. So when you talk about a change, I had to really get into myself to be like, what am I doing? Because
was that a spiritual transition?
Yes, absolutely. Spiritual transitions. I mean, there was things leading up to it, like the death of my father, the birth of my daughter, knowing that if I ever want to make it out of prison, I got to change my lifestyle. I had a drug habit, so all these things were messing me up. And I was taught to think a certain way, so that's embedded in your mind. So now you got to change your mindset. You got to change the way you think. Now you got to have compassion as to when before I didn't care. I had no compassion on myself or anybody. So I just want I want the record to be clear on that. I'm not here to say, oh, I did this or we did this and this is what I know. I victimized a lot of people, and for that I'm sorry. I truly am.
Was this the reason why you ended up leaving Lame?
Yes, absolutely. I wanted a better life. I didn't want to victimize anymore. I wanted to give back. I wanted to right my wrongs. So that's most important.
We were talking about
No,
go ahead, please.
Even if I didn't make it out of prison, I was a lifer, so I had to go to the parole board. And one of the hardest prayers that I said to God was, if it's meant for me to spend the rest of my life in prison and to serve you here, then I'm willing to do that. And thank God, by the grace of God, and only by the grace of God, I'm out here today.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm speechless.
Which isn't very often. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And we were discussing something similar in a previous episode where, a lot of guys who are looking to get into like executive protection and bodyguard and stuff. And, once you have the family, once your priorities change, once you want a better life, not only for your spouse, but primarily your children, not so much yourself, you got to make those changes. And it happens on both sides of the fence. It happens on the good side, the bad side. It happens, and exactly what you said is you're like, hey, I can serve the rest of my life serving God's purpose in prison and penitentiary.
Yeah.
If you see fit. However, I'll serve better for my kids, my daughter, my wife, everything. I'll serve that better out in public and being with them. And so you made those necessary changes, but you still, if I'm not mistaken, you still have that fearless mindset. That doesn't go away, correct?
Well, yeah. I mean, I can sit here to choose to live in fear for the rest of my life, knowing that if someone recognizes me, I can possibly get assassinated, killed, hit, whatever terminology is used, or I can come out here and be a responsible, law-abiding citizen and be a family man.
Were you happy you got out and made that move and found the Lord in prison and made that
Yeah.
conversion to Christ. And what was that experience like for you emotionally, knowing you're going to psychologically lead the cartel in the prison, and once you made the conversion and the acceptance of your that relationship, what was that like for you?
It was an awakening. You know, I seen more clearly, and I felt good about myself for a long time. I didn't. You know, but once God comes into your life and they fill you and he fills you with your Holy Spirit, and you just feel, you learn to let go. You know, once you ask for forgiveness, then you got to let it go. You can't continue to hold on to that, because that's what the enemy wants, right? That's what the devil wants. He wants to keep you there. He wants you to feel you're no good. You can't ever come back from this. The things you've done. No, you've been forgiven, and now it's just to move forward and not to make those same mistakes twice. You know, give back to the community in any way that you possibly can. And this is one of my ways that I'm giving back. You know, and not only that, but if it's someone, a family member that I can counsel, give advice, suggestion, or just a random stranger on the street, and just give a kind word. You know, these are all things that I feel are the will of God. You know, we got to show love, right? You know, to our neighbors.
Amen.
So, yeah.
You know, I have a friend by the name of Nico Hill. Was his name in the underground fighting world was Nico the Dragon Hill, 45 credits in Hollywood. And he actually does prison ministries in prisons. Have you heard of that name out there? Nico Hill?
No, I've never heard of Nico Hill.
David
Not
Hill
familiar.
also. He goes by David Hill on Facebook.
Yeah.
And he does actually prison ministries out there. I know I saw him, met him in West Hollywood like 8 years ago when he was methed out. And he was actually the cartel, or somebody was using him as a shot caller and taking care of their business, because he was a fighter, a former underground fighter, professional fighter. If you looked him up on
Right.
YouTube, you find him everywhere on YouTube.
Okay.
But yeah, that's quite the powerful testimony. I mean, I wasn't expecting to hear that.
It's exactly the words right out of my mouth. I wasn't expecting this conversation to go this route, but it's very inspiring at the same time.
So
Yes.
what are your words of wisdom for those guys in the cartel and the gangs? That is there anything better than this? I don't want to be shooting people and killing people the rest of my life. And is there hope? What is your message to those people listening on this, or maybe in a gang?
You know, there is hope, and don't be afraid to ask for help. You know, and most of all, if you're gonna change, you want to change for yourself. You know, don't do it for anybody else but yourself. You have to do it. You have to want to do it for yourself, and know that, you know, it's not too late. It's never too late to change. Doesn't matter how old you are, you can do it. God is with you. All you got to do is call out to Him. You will be accepted, and just, man, live your life. Don't live it for anybody else. Live it for yourself. When you get yourself together, then you're able to help others.
Now, did you find some sort of spiritual, supernatural power when you made that conversion in prison? What gave you that strength out of nowhere? What happened there?
Well, you know, I don't think it was like a supernatural power to call it that. I mean, it's just, I was just filled with peace. I felt content. I felt happy. You know, it's just something that just washes over you. For me, it was just something. It was the Holy Spirit. That's what I know it to be.
Outstanding. Yeah, that's very true words. Very few people ever get that chance to feel that way. But like you had mentioned before, you hadn't been happy for many, many years, and that was the only time you felt it. It's like when you're confined, when you're behind walls, and when you're in fear for your life every day in a confined space where you can't escape, you can't leave the state, you can't, jump in your car and take off because you're afraid. But it takes something like that to go ahead and finally give you peace, and to bring you the peace, and to change your whole life, and now leading others to go ahead and leave as well, and do the right. So you don't have to be afraid.
Yeah, you know, because that life, you're gonna end up dead living that life. You know, you're gonna end up dead. There's no doubt about it. Continue to live that life. You're gonna spend the rest of your life.
Still there? I think we got a bad connection or something. Test.
Okay, yes, I'm here.
There you are. Okay. So now
Okay.
what are you doing with your life now? You're out of prison, you're with your family and living, you're being a productive citizen, and now sometimes you have like a Christian walk. You're really heavily probably
Yes.
involved with God and church and stuff. What is that? What does your life look like now, past gang and Mexican cartel stuff?
It looks 110% better.
There you
You know,
go.
I'm living life. I'm enjoying it. You know, it's the little things that I didn't get to do that I get to do now. You know, I got arrested when I was 16 years old. I went to prison when I was 17. I spent a total of 30 years in prison. You know, I'm 46 now, going on 47. So I mean, do the math. Look how much I didn't experience. Now I'm doing that. You know, so even if it's just to go to a Dodger game, Universal Studios, City Walk, Magic Mountain, the beach, you know, just being with family. You know, it's such a blessing. It's such a blessing, you know. And I just thank God every day for everything that I have. It it's because of Him, you know. And um, it's a wonderful thing. It really is. And to have family and friends support of me and surrounding me is the best thing ever.
Well, I started this podcast. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't sure what I was getting into,
Yes.
but I'm like, wow, the story is one of hope, inspiration, and inspiration. These kids, locked up in the house with COVID-19, and
Yeah.
have hope. And you listen to your story, and now when we can cross over, you got some gang members listening to this possibly, and we
Yeah.
had Frank Mir on. I know there's a lot of Mexicans that love the gangs that love UFC stuff, and then we hear your story about where you've come, where you've gone, and you're basically a miracle in the making if you think about it.
Yeah.
And what happened in prison, it sounds like you got out because you went through you appeared to the parole board in parole hearing,
Yes.
and you go, hey, they heard your story of your transformation and what you've done, and they let you out early.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of work. It's just not only that of them listening to the story, but you got to put the work in. There's a lot of self-help groups that they have in prison, or they have some. I don't want to say a lot, but they do have some. And even if they don't let that be an excuse not to better yourself, because you can go to the library, you can ask your family or friends to get you books, or you can ask for books. You know, read. It's most important. Rehabilitation is key. You know, you can't put it on the system to rehabilitate you. You got to rehabilitate yourself.
Would you say that is the number one piece of advice you can give somebody who's incarcerated right now, is to
Absolutely take the initiative, you know, and I understand, you know what, it's hard in prison. You know what I mean? There's nothing easy about living in prison because everything that goes on, you see people get killed, you see people kill themselves, you have family dying that you cannot be with. And all these are stressors, you know, all those are stressors. These are the good things to get you depressed. Then there's drugs, and then your circle of influence, you know, but you have to really take a step back. And this is where it takes courage to take a step back. All the courage that you had to live the life of being a gang member, a cartel member, a shot caller, whatever it is, all that focus that you had into that, focus it into turning yourself around, because you can do it. It's so important. It's so important to just don't care what other people think. Do it for yourself, because you're doing it for the right reasons. If they're truly your friends, which you know they're not, this is something that they would want you to do.
Definitely. It sounds like,
So,
I know a lot of the experience that you guys have on the street, you and reading those books, Master Manipulators, How to Influence People, all those types of reading
yes,
material, Miyamoto Musashi's Five Rings, you
yes,
have to be a master manipulator on the streets and in the prison as
you
well, and
do.
in incarceration. But
Absolutely.
it sounds
Yes.
like you're saying you have to manipulate yourself to be the better person. You have to change
Well,
yourself, and you have to build it up that way.
yeah, because you know what, what you do to yourself, when you have this mindset of the way you used to live, and you know you're taught that whoever's not like you is a, piece of crap. They're no good. That's the bottom of the barrel. They make you feel so little, so you live with that I can't be like that. Because if I'm gonna be like that, they're gonna call me a punk, or they're gonna call me all these different names. So you start believing that. So you have to get into yourself, and like you said, you do have to manipulate yourself into that sense. But you're doing it for the good. You're not doing it for the bad. You're not trying to get over on anybody. Who doesn't want longevity in their life? Who doesn't want to get out of prison? But no, if you want to get out of prison and you want to get out that lifestyle, then you have to make those changes. Those are necessary steps that a person has to take in their life. To think positive, to do good, to treat others right.
What kind of influence has you? Did you become a Christian in prison? Is that what happened? You said you found God and all that. What is life
yes,
look like now? How is that involved in your life presently?
Oh man, it's so good. It's so good. When I have the time, I attend church when I'm not working. Or I watch it on YouTube. I go to my church. It's on YouTube. If I miss it on a certain night, I can catch it there. I still have my Bible. I still remember. I still remember my verses. There's a couple of verses that I cite every morning. That just keeps me grounded, and being thankful to God. Let me tell you.
Okay.
Cause me to hear your loving kindness in the morning, for in you do I trust. Cause me to know the way in which I shall walk, for I lift up my soul to you. Give ear to my words, O Lord, consider my meditation. Give heed to the voice of my cry, my King and my God. For to you I will pray, my voice you shall hear in the morning. I shall direct it to you, and I will look up. Wow. Those verses right there from Psalms just stay with me, and it helps me throughout my days. And even if it's not the morning, I'll say it for the afternoon or for the night in our Father's prayer. And, I'm not perfect. I might cuss or I might do something, but, I ask for forgiveness because I can't hold on to that. No one's perfect. We're all sinners in some ways, so.
Did you find the ability to forgive yourself through, of course, what Christ did for you, the ability to forgive your past and move forward? Was that the key for you?
Yes, that's a key. For me. Yeah, that's definitely a key. That's definitely a key because I'm not proud of anything that I've done wrong in my past that was harmful to others.
Wow. Well, this show went a different direction. I'm like, oh, well, okay, wow.
I think it went better than we ever expected.
Yeah, I'm like, just hearing the passion in your voice, the conviction in your voice, the passion and inspiration and the hope in your voice tells the audience that there is hope out there, even if you're in crime, if you're in the cartel, or you're a kid and dealing with PTSD issues with the military. That it doesn't matter what walk of life you are. Everybody needs hope. Everybody needs that gift of knowing where they're heading. And I can hear it in your voice that your life has dramatically changed.
Yes, it has.
And when I asked you about how many kills did you have, I'm like, wait a minute, that's not a proper question to ask somebody that's made a life change. So I apologize for that.
No, I understand. I get it.
And now I'm just thrilled that we didn't go there because I didn't realize I opened up a new can of worms of your new life, which gives you inspiration and hope of being with your family and having God in your life. And it's just
absolutely
basically a walking miracle.
Yes. Absolutely. And there's plenty of miracles out there.
Right.
We just don't know about, and they're up and coming miracles.
Right. Wow. Well, that I don't want to take too much of your time. I'm glad you came on because this was not what I was expecting. This is 1,000 times better. It just went really good. And I mean, there's some information out there. You gave some insights on what's going on in the world, but just having hope for the future and, knowing where you stand and your value and your belief system, that's crucial in living life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anytime. I enjoyed the time. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. I appreciate it very much.
Sleepy, we appreciate it. Thank you so much. And we'll be in contact soon. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for your time.
God bless you. Have a good day.
Bless you too. Thank you.
Bye.
And that is a wrap, folks, on the Fearless Mindset podcast. And thanks for joining us. And we'll talk to you all soon.
I was not expecting that. So thank you.
When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ludlow, and enjoy today's episode.